Hey guys, this is part 3 of the Play a Hand vs. Me or free poker training or hand reading series. In this part, we'll be combining what we learned in part 1, Combinatorics, with what we learned in part 2, EV, and learn how to use them together. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, I suggest you do, as I'll be referencing them multiple times throughout this video. Okay, so we're going over the same hand. And if you were to combine combinatorics and EV for this hand, you'd have to 1. Count all my value and count all my bluffs, 2. Figure out the percentage of the time you'd win versus my range, and 3. Compare that to the pot odds and see if that's enough. If you hadn't guessed, that's really fucking hard. This takes me over a minute to do. You could try it on your own. I think it would, it's just going to take a long time, and you don't get that much time in game. And you don't get someone just telling you their range either. So I have to do all this and then figure out my opponent's range. So at this point you might feel discouraged or overwhelmed or feel like you're just never going to get it. But that's the wrong mindset. The correct mindset when something is too hard is to figure out a way to go around the problem, to simplify it, make it more intuitive or easier. And if you want to make something simpler, you need to start with a basic question. Why is it hard? And specific reasons why it's hard is because counting a bunch of combos takes a pretty long time, and then calculating your win percentage takes an even longer time, especially if you're not comfortable with maths. Now, it may not seem like it, but we've actually made pretty good progress in solving this problem. There's an old adage or saying that a problem well defined is a problem half solved. And the reason why is we know which direction we are going instead of, just wandering aimlessly. So we have these two problems right here, and I just wrote them down so you don't forget. So 1, counting all the combos, 2, calculating win percentage. What I mean by this is, we count 100 value combos and 40 bluff combos. Figuring out how often we win takes a lot of time. It's a pain in the ass. So we're going to use another very simple, obvious method, which is just working on one at a time. So we're just going to work on this first one right here. And to solve it, we're going to use another method, which is less well known. You may or may not have heard of it. We're going to ask if we've ever solved a related problem. Whether in previous videos, which is a hint, or, in anywhere. And you can pause and think about it, or I'll just show you what I got here. Okay, so if you guys have seen part 2, which you probably haven't, we solved a similar problem in my opinion. We were calculating the odds you need versus various different bet sizes, 100% bet, 90% bet, 80% bet. And it was a lot of info, a lot of stuff to remember, and it was kind of a pain in the ass. And we noticed that there wasn't a big difference between 100% bet and 90% bet. You need 32.1 versus 33% equity, which is just a pain in the ass to remember. Like, we're not computers. So we kind of felt like it was unnecessary, or I did, rather. And I simplified it to this. Just 4 different bets. Full pot bet, you need to win 33%, or 1 in 3. Half pot bet, 25%, or 1 in 4. Facing between half and full, you need to win 30%, or 3 out of 10. You could probably get rid of this one, you don't really need it. Facing less than half pot, 20% out of 1 in 5. So not only do we have less terms, this is a bunch of terms, and we haven't even looked at lower percentages and like 25 and 45 and all that. So not only do we have less terms, it's also more simplified and more intuitive as well. These are very typical bets you might run into, so it becomes pretty easy. So what if we can use a similar solution? If these two problems are related, we will be able to. So the solution we kind of used was we took something that was pretty hard and kind of a pain in the ass to do, and we simplified it by putting into groups. These are basically just 4 groups: full pot, half pot, less than half pot. Basically just 3 groups. Just grouped a whole bunch of things together. And we made it pretty intuitive. So can we do that for the combos? And I'll let you guys think about it on your own, or I'm just going to do it now. Feel free to pause. So I decided to put it into 5 groups here. And just ignore this over here. So I made an extra small group for 10 combos and under, a small group for 10 to 25 combos, a medium group for 25 to 60, a large for 60 to 100 combos, and extra large for 100 plus combos. So instead of counting all the combos, I would say, well, no, I think he's in the small range, or a small value range, and a medium bluff range, or large value, medium bluff, whatever I thought it was. And another thing is you don't have to agree with these numbers. You could put in any numbers you want as long as they kind of make sense. Also, you don't even need to have numbers if you don't want to. You could just do this intuitively. You could just say, whatever you think small or medium or large is intuitively in your head, you could just do that on the fly, like on a hand-by-hand basis, if you wanted. You could even change these names. You could make extra small green and large red, if that was more intuitive, or a 1 to 10 scale, or you could even go crazy. You can make like extra small Donald Trump's hands and extra large like Mandingo size or something. Just whatever is intuitive, whatever works for you. So this sounds cool, but let's check if it actually works in practice. It's not enough that it sounds cool, it has to work on real hands. So we'll go to this actual hand we're looking at, and we'll look at his value range. We'll start there. What group would you put that in? You can pause here. I'd say it's in a large group, or medium to large, I'd say. And I'd say his bluff range is definitely in the small group. So what do we do now? How do we know if it's a call or not here? Well, we've actually run into problem 2 here, calculating the win percentage. We didn't count the combos one by one, so we can't really do it that way anymore. We need to figure out another way to do it. So we're faced with a new problem. And to solve this one, we're going to use a fundamental problem-solving technique. And I might have thrown that word around a lot, but I think this is one of the most important ones. If you write down the data, the important information, the important things that you know about the hand, it's going to be a nice solid step towards solving the problem. It will create a nice foundation. So I'll let you guys think about what are the 2 important parts, what are the 2 important pieces of information here when trying to decide whether it's a call or not. Alright, so I'll let you guys think about it. I'm throwing it up now. Alright, so 1 is that he bets pot, and 2 is that you need to win 33% of the time, or 1 out of 3 to break even. And this sort of helps, and I want to use some other trick, and I want to use the same tricks we've been using and try and find a way to make this intuitive and simple. Since they're all kind of like the same problem, maybe I could do that. And when I'm fucking with numbers, if you want to try and find a pattern, you could try and just state these numbers in a different way. And I'm going to do that here. So these 2 specifically, 1 out of 3, I can say that in a different way. I could say that, hold on, that he has to have 2 value bets to every 1 bluff to break even. And you may notice something very simple here. This number 2 is double. So his value bets need to be double the amount of bluffs he has. And just to clarify, make sure that you're winning 33% or 1 out of 3 here. If you played this hand 3 times, on average he'd show you 2 value bets, and you'd lose 2, and then he'd show you the 1 bluff, and then you'd win. So you'd win 1 out of 3. Okay, so this number is just double. So I can say anytime he has double the amount of value bets or more, I should fold. If he has less than double and my opponent bets pot, I should call. And I think that's pretty simple. And if you go back to this hand, does it look like he has less than double the amount of value bets or more than double the amount of value bets? And I think it's pretty clear that it's more than double. And there is. I counted all the combos. There's 61 value and 21 bluffs, so that's about triple. So pretty clear fold here. And you can do this for all the different bet sizes. If your opponent bets half pot, you need to win. Nope, that's the wrong one. Hold on. I have so many of these things, it's so hard to keep track. Hold on. There we go. If he bets half pot, you need to win 1 out of 4, or 25%, which is the same thing as saying, hold on, okay, which is the same as saying 3 value to 1 bluff, which is triple. So if he bets half pot, he needs to have triple the value. If he has more than triple the value, you fold. If he has less than triple, you call. And the same thing goes for less than half pot. So 20%, you need to win 1 and 5, which is the same as saying 4 value to 1 bluff. And let me move that. That's the same as 4 value to 1 bluff, and that's quadruple, or 4 times as much. So if he bets less than half, he has to have 4 times as many value for you to fold, or he has to have less than 4 times as much value for you to call. So pretty simple. Let's start doing some practice hands now. And I actually think you could throw out the stuff on groups that we did. I don't even think it's necessary anymore. For 1 week I thought the whole video was going to be on these groups, but after working on problem 2 and just seeing, this double, triple, quadruple thing, it just seems way easier, and it feels like it solves both problems at once. And I was gonna, take all the part about groups out of this video and just skip the problem 2, but I think that would be a misrepresentation of what problem solving is actually like. You come up with a solution, you think it's really good, and then you keep working on it and you realize, well, it's not that good. So I decided to keep it in, and I thought there were some pretty cool problem solving things in there. And maybe someone watching this thinks the groups are a better idea and just works better with the groups. Then just keep those if you want. So I decided to keep it in and waste 5 to 10 minutes of your time, potentially. So let's do some practice hands. I made a bunch of other ones, and we'll try it out. So these are actually going to be with real ranges. So I'm going to start the hand from the beginning so you guys can actually see the action this time. And I'll show you the range that I gave the guy. So we raise an EP, small blind calls, we bet half pot on the flop, he calls, turn goes check check, river, he bets like 1/3 pot, significantly less than half. Okay, here's his range, and you guys can pause. I'm going to give the answer. So this one is actually a fold. He needs to have quadruple or more value to call, and he actually does. He has like 57 combos of value in this range and only 12 combos of bluffs with the Jack 10, because you block it with your 10 here. I think a hand you should call with is like 9-8 here, because you beat these hands right here, these hands, and you chop with 9-8. So I think that would be, I think you would win pretty often. Right, so here's the next one. You have Jack 10 here, and start this from the beginning. So I raise pretty big pre-flop, 2.5x, button calls, bet big on the flop, he calls, turn goes check check. Turn he bets, we call. River he bets again, around half pot. And where's his range at? This is his range. Okay, and I'll let you guys figure it out. And these hands right here are just one combo each. These weird color ones, they're just missed flush draws. So keep that in mind. Okay, so this hand is a pretty clear call. He has like 31 bluffs and 34 value, so you'd win about half the time. He needs to have over 3 times as much value, so pretty easy call. We have this hand right here. We open the button with 5 deuce for a min raise, big blind calls. We bet flop, he calls, turn goes check check. River, he bets about half pot. And the range we gave him was, I think it was this. Yep, that was it. Okay, so figure out if this is a call or not. I'm going to pause. And the answer is that you should call. He has about 84 value and 48 bluffs, so you know he doesn't have triple the value range here. And two interesting things about this hand is that the power of just offsuit Broadway type hands. You know, these are 16 combos right here. There's no blockers to them. 16 combos, 32 combos, 48 combos, just in those hands. To get 48 combos here, you know, this is only 8 each, so you'd have to take off all these to get 48 combos. So it shows you the power of no blockers, and when you include offsuit hands too. Another interesting thing is if you had pocket tens here, your chances of winning would go way down because you would block these hands pretty hard. So it would be a pretty close call. I think you would make a slight profit calling with pocket tens and make a pretty big profit calling with deuce 5 here. And we'll do a video on blockers eventually if I'm not too lazy. Okay, so we have this hand. Okay, let me play this hand from the start. Okay, so he opens, we 3-bet pre, kind of small, he calls. We check back flop, we call a turn bet, and he bets around pot on the river. And this is his range, and it takes a little explanation here. So these 3 are just flushes, which are just one combo each. Pocket 8s, pocket 7s are only with a club in them. And these hands are only with a club in them. So I only picked, king, queen, king, jack, that he would bet the turn if he had a club in it, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so pause here if you don't want the answer. So there's only 10 bluffs, and there's 25 value, so it's barely a fold. Another interesting blocker note is that if you didn't have the king of clubs, you'd win another 5 to 10% of the time here. The reason is because you block king queen offsuit with the king of clubs and king jack offsuit with the king of clubs, which is another 6 combos right there. So having the king of clubs kind of sucks this hand. He would have an extra few flushes, but not blocking those bluffs is more important here, I think. And you might even have like king 10 offsuit, king of clubs in that range too. And for those curious, I just folded here. I folded the 5 deuce hand as well. Okay, we have this hand. Guy limps. We min raise to kind of ISO. Goes check check. We bet small. He calls. Turn goes check check. He bets about half pot on the river. This is his range, and decide what to do. Pause here if you want. So there's 53 value and 14 bluffs if I counted right, so this one's a fold too. Another note, I think if you had an ace here, you would block all these bluffs, so like a hand like ace 4, if you had that, I think would be one of the worst hands to call river with. Okay, we have this hand. We raise jacks, small blind calls, goes check check. He bets turn, and then he shoves all in on the river. Okay, so let me paste this hand in here. Okay, this is his range. These hands are just flushes, these weird color ones. These ace jack, ace 10, ace 9 are just with the ace of diamonds. So keep that in mind. Call or fold here. The answer is fold. I think he has about 32 value and 13 bluffs, so it's this one is a fold. And we'll do one more hand because I'm getting lazy. I spent like 10 days on this hand, so it's long enough. Okay, so last hand, we raise ace queen. This guy flats. We bet flop, he calls, turn goes check call on my end. River, he bets pot, basically. A little bit over pot. And let me pull out his range. Okay, here's his range. All the weird color ones are just flushes, which are one combo each. Alright, call or fold. So if I did this right, and odds are I did, but some chance I didn't, there's 27 value and 12 bluffs, so you should fold this one. Weird blocker note, well, maybe a kind of obvious blocker note, but if you have the ace of hearts, all these value go away. You can't have this, can't have this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You would take away 12 of his value combos if you had the ace of hearts, and it would be pretty easy call. Like you should call ace deuce with ace of hearts and fold ace queen here. That's kind of how the game works. So hope you guys like this. In part 4, we're probably going to go over how to actually put people on the ranges yourselves rather than me just giving you the ranges. I was kind of taking it easy on you. Now things are going to get harder. Peace.